Hello everybody, Happy New Year. Welcome back to my channel for the first video of 2025. I thought today we'd just have a little discussion, talk about my audio journey in relation to creating video and just some stories of projects that I've done and the audio that I used all the way back, going on nearly 30 years. Not quite 30 years. First project that comes to mind was with a discrete audio would have been in around 1996. So audio, it's a difficult part of the video making journey. It's definitely underrepresented on YouTube in terms of content creators that are focused on video tend to focus on lenses, cameras. Understandably, that's the stuff that we're interested in as image makers. We definitely focus more on the video side of things than the audio, but as everyone knows, audio is at least 50% of output on your project. So going back to the first project that I used or attempted to use discrete audio on, it was back in 1995, so actually 30 years ago. Myself, my dad, and a good friend of mine were attempting to shoot a documentary about a local old-timer local to the Caribou area, 100 Mile House, that had done a traveling slideshow for many years in the past. So he would travel around to different towns in the Caribou area, Quesnel, Williams Lake, Prince George, 100 Mile, Cache Creek, all these little towns, all scattered throughout the Caribou region. And he would do an old-time slideshow talking about some of the pioneers to the area and showing photos of these individuals that had sort of built the area, going back as far as he had photographs of these individuals. So in addition to showing the slideshow, he would talk about the significance of the places and the people. So my dad and I were really interested in this guy. I was quite young. I just graduated from university, and we wanted to make a film, a documentary about this fella. His name was Ted Salos. He's passed away quite some time ago now. Keeping in mind this is going back 30 years. Unfortunately, the equipment that we had was very limited. We didn't really have a budget for making the film. As I said, I'd just gotten out of university, so I didn't have any money. My dad was willing to put in a few $100, and then he was willing to also do the interviews with Ted, so sit down and do the interviews with him. And then we got the permission and the help of a local restaurant owner that we knew well to shoot the interview section portion of the documentary in their restaurant, which was great. So some of the challenges that we had, and I should say that the project never really matured or progressed into a final form. I still have some of the video, and potentially some of it was shot on Super 8mm film, but I don't think it was ever processed, and obviously that would have been a difficult editing process to match the 8mm, which I think was shooting, the Super 8 was shooting at like 16 frames per second or something to that effect. And then we were using a VHS-C camcorder, which I owned from university, and I had shot some short films, just fun stuff in university using the camera, but it was very limited technology, and being VHS, it was a very lossy technology, so editing was very difficult. And then audio was the other aspect of it. So this is what we're getting at. So I had the idea to use a reel-to-reel 4-track that I had from my uncle to record the audio discreetly from the video. Because I knew even back then, 30 years ago, that audio was the limiting factor. If you wanted to do a project that people would take seriously, you really needed to mic people up and you really needed to get good audio. I didn't really have the ability to, there was a mic input jack on the camcorder, single stereo input, and then there was built-in mics, which obviously would have been really poor quality, especially back then. We had this 4-track, and it allowed us to record 2 tracks simultaneously. So that was a semi-professional option, and that's what we decided we would try and do. We had a couple of different condenser mics, small pencil mics that we used as our mics for my dad, who was the interviewer, and then Ted, who was the interviewee. And that's what we did. We shot video with the 4-track reel-to-reel recorder recording the audio. And I think that we patched it from the one of the headphone outs of the, or one of the outputs of the 4-track into the input on the camcorder as well, but I can't say for sure. I don't remember the total setup. I can pretty clearly remember the setup that we had. It was very guerrilla, and this is going back before the days of digital, so quite a long time ago. Anyways, needless to say, the project never really got off the ground. It's one of my bigger regrets that we never finalized something out of that project. It was a great project. The character Ted was such an interesting fella, and he's an old guy at the time. He was quite old. He'd been in the area his whole life. He really knew the history of the area. And then another portion of what we did was filming his slideshow itself. So that was another aspect of it. And then we did some other stuff on location. He had owned an old mill in the town, and we did some location shooting there as well. But as I say, I don't really even have something to show you. I do think I have some of the video kicking around on videotapes. I think it's been pushed over to VHS, like a full-size VHS, but not a finished or completed or edited version. But maybe some of the tapes were possibly still kicking around. I'd love to look at it again, but as a instructional on audio, that was the first one that I can remember really caring about audio and knowing that audio was such a critical component of the presentation. Maybe not nailing it because of the technology and just the budget. We didn't have any budget. Things were really expensive back then too. Just to have the video camera was like great. And then we also had the small Super 8mm film camera, but I don't think we ever got any of that footage developed. Yeah, so lessons I learned from that situation were that definitely audio was a very key component, especially of documentary style filmmaking, and that you needed to have a syncable setup, so that irregardless of what it is that you record on the secondary setup, it needs to be able to sync with your primary, your video and your primary, like your scratch track or whatever. So that was a big lesson. Moving forward, it was a long time until I did another professional, well, I'd call it professional, I was pretty amateur, but I was doing commercial work. At the next step in the process was now using digital video cameras. We used I had a Sony 007 camera, video camera, a little tiny digital video mini DV camera that I had bought in the mid 90s, late 90s, like 98, 99, or maybe even 2000. And then when I returned back to Canada, I was doing some projects with the fellow that I worked with, Lee Peters, and we did lots of projects over the years. And we needed, again, an audio solution for that setup. And in that setup, we were doing a bunch of location shooting, and then also, and it was like a construction site. So again, it was like sort of corporate documentary style, but more like commercial for marketing purposes. And so we were shooting a lot of location, construction site locations, and then we were doing some like tabletop demos with lighting, and I mean, obviously we would light our spaces even on the construction site. But for the audio component of those, we were using, again, probably the same set of condenser little pencil mics that I had from the previous project to begin with. And then eventually we kind of moved into, still have the unit here. This is a Audio-Technica freeway transmitter. Transmits on a specific UHF channel, and it was not channel selectable. Like, you had to buy the unit with the specific channel, and the receiver had a specific channel. And then it came with not a lav mic, but like a headset with a mic built in. Not headphones, just a headset with a mic. And so we used this one. I believe we were going directly into camera on that, but using a better quality, or no, sorry, it went into a mixing board, and then we would have also like a condenser microphone, probably one of those condenser or a pair of those condenser microphones, and then we did a mix and then took the mix into camera. So that's what we were doing. I think I may still even have the mixing board kicking around. I'm not sure about that, but that was the setup. And then the receiver itself was quite big. This is the transmitter, which was fine. It was a little tiny unit. So that one was better, and that worked. We got decent audio off of that. And then later on with that same, maybe a few years later, I upgraded the camera to a Panasonic DVX 100, which is a very popular and still to this day kind of a iconic mini DV camera. I think the skateboarders use them, although most of them have moved on to the HVX 200, which was the upgrade that also shot HD. But the DVX was a fantastic camera, definitely a step up. It had decent onboard mics, but it also had like an onboard XLRs, 2 XLR channels. So that was a big step up. And at that time, I moved up to this Azden SGM 1X shotgun mic. Yeah, this was definitely a step up. We still had the lav mic that we would use, or not lav, but the mic, the body pack wireless mic as well. So we would have 2 sources of audio, and then there was a little bit of a delay potentially, but not much. Those UHF systems were very were pretty rapid. They didn't have a lot of delay or latency. So that was the next stage in our development. And then that project, or that whole position that I was in, kind of the family business, I worked for Lee, and he was partners with my mom. So for years we worked together. And then that was sort of my last real commercial videography steady job that I had, as well as other marketing positions, but that was where I did a lot of my video. And those videos are still up on YouTube and have had tons of traction. We were one of the first companies in flooring to be posting regularly on YouTube. So we gained pretty good traction early on, had lots of views on our videos. And we were developing some really innovative tools, and that was what we were filming and working with. That was a big step up in my journey. Now, more recently, I've taken kind of a bit of a step backwards. This shotgun mic has developed some grounding issues and is really no longer a usable piece of hardware. So I have to replace my shotgun mic. I don't currently have a shotgun mic. And more recently, we were focused on doing a podcast for the new company that I'm an operations manager for. I set up a podcast, and we've been producing episodes of that. And for that, we've been using these studio mics. Now, we actually use different ones. This is a pod mic, Rode pod mic, but we've been using a step up. I can't remember if they're the Procaster, a little bit better studio mic that requires preamp. And then we were using a Rodecaster Pro mixing board to capture the audio, mix it down. So that's still a project that we're working on. Right now we don't currently have the studio set up, but we have basically a 4-person setup with 4 mics, a mixing board, and then a 4-camera setup that we shoot video on as well. So that's a fairly big step up in terms of the audio setup requirements, having 4 independent channels of mic, and that down to a final mix with a multicam setup. Really fun stuff, and the audio has been good on those. So definitely we've had good outcomes with that setup. And now more recently, for my passion projects and the stuff that I want to shoot, I had been using for the last few years the H4n, not even the Pro. I don't think it's the original version, but it's the H4n. Everybody knows about these. And I had been using the shotgun mic in that, and then I picked up a Rode wireless mic, and so I've been using that as well. And that's been good. That's not been bad. A little lav mic, that's worked well. H4n is okay. The controls are a little bit difficult to work, and the preamps aren't that good. But it was a good intermediary step. I did a number of projects, just personal projects for the most part, using that setup. And now just very recently, basically based on the idea that I want to put a little bit more effort into my YouTube channel and what I'm producing this year, I've upgraded to a nice setup here. I won't get... So this is it's an Orca bag. And inside the Orca bag I have the MixPre 3 Mark II. I've got the upgrade for the MixPre 3 that allows it to capture 5 channels of discrete audio, and then a 6th and 7th track that it records, like the mix down stereo track. And I upgraded to a set of wireless DJI mic setup, a pair, so a receiver and 2 transmitters, the original DJI mic. I picked that up fairly inexpensively for $250. Picked up the MixPre 3 with the Orca for $750, so that got me in at $1,000. And then I just picked up another set of mics that I thought might be useful. This is the Comica CVM WM100 Plus, and this is a dual receiver, and then it comes with a set of body pack transmitters that use UHF. So the DJI are great, and I really like those, but they're 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, so they're a little bit susceptible to outside Wi-Fi traffic and that type of thing. They're fine. For the most part, that's what I would normally use because they're very easy to work with. But in situations, I just worry about situations where there's like 2.4 gigahertz crowding. There's only 40 usable channels within a 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth. So having a set of UHF transmitters and receiver is kind of nice, even though they're not super high quality. They're decent quality and they're very clean. Those are kind of just a nice option just in case we run into issues with some crowding on the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. We can switch over to UHF and make sure that we have an option in case of doing an important project. Some of the stuff I do is still for my work for marketing purposes, and if I've got people assembled and lighting set up and everything ready to go, I don't want to have a failure based on equipment. So I'll do a bigger breakdown of my bag, my 2025 audio setup, but I just thought I would run through a bit of story time on my journey with audio over the years, going back, well, really 30 years, since 1995 and that first project. I'd love to dig out some of that project if I still have anything left over from it, and have a look at it and see what the audio sounds like. But that's everything for today. Just like a little bit of a story time. Maybe if you've had a similar journey or a different journey with your audio, you can mention in the comments below some of the things that you've been doing. And if you have any ideas on, I've been looking at potentially buying like some higher end stuff. I didn't want to over invest in. At this stage, I do need a shotgun mic, and I've been looking at potentially picking up a Rode NTG3. Not the cheapest mic, but I've heard good things about it. And the Sennheiser 416 MKE, I think it's an MKE 416. That's another one that's on my radar, but it's quite expensive. I think the next shotgun mic that I buy, though, will be more expensive. I don't think I'm going to buy a cheap one again. The Asden, it did me dirty. It had a lot of noise, and then eventually it just became unusable. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you like this kind of video. In 2025, I really want to ramp up my quality and not so much the quantity, although I would like to do at least a video every 2 weeks. Last year I almost did a video every 2 weeks. This year I'd love to hit that, say 25, 26 videos or more if I get moving. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and look forward to seeing your comments down below. Have a great day. Take care. Bye for now.